Now, I did mention in a previous update that I wanted to do some maybe some odder kits that you probably haven't seen video reviews of. This is one of them. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, if I've built one of these, is when you're a kid growing up, or you've got one in the stash, or whatever. It's been about for a while, that's for sure. I think we're looking at probably the 70s for this boxing, maybe the 80s, but I think the kit's been around for some time. There aren't any other options for this kit in 1/72nd scale as far as I've seen, and it's quite an iconic aircraft. So this is the Dragon Rapide, the DH-89, which is de Havilland, makers of the famous Tiger Moth and Mosquito, among other famous aircraft. So with its age, obviously we've got a few things to bear in mind. It's we're not talking state of the art, it's just something a bit interesting to have a look at. So as we get into the box, I'm going to start with something that you usually find with kits of this age, which is yellow decals. So a lot of you will be used to this. There are workarounds for this, but I'm not buying this to use these decals anyway. But obviously you can see the issues. If you've got yellow decals, it means the carrier film goes yellow, the white goes a different colour, and it all goes off a little bit. So there are ways you can put it into natural sunlight and it will bring the colour back, or there's plenty of aftermarket decals for this type of kit. I will be doing a very obscure one when I get to that, so more on that in a minute. So then we've got the instructions. Now, this being a Hella kit means it's actually French, and initially they didn't actually give you English instructions, but they did towards the end, but they are sort of simplified. Well, no, so there you go, sorry, that's me getting confused. So there are English and there are German parts to the instructions here, but this is just the writing part. So the way that they used to do their instructions is you'd have one big fold out sheet like this, giving you a diagram of how everything goes together, usually all on one page, which this is. Then you'd have the painting instructions on the other side, and then the parts breakdown would be in writing here. So this tells you all the parts here with the numbers and what they want you to do with it, etc. Whether to glue, not glue, and all the rest of it. And it's perfectly straightforward. It's pretty easy to understand if you built a few kits these days. So what you've got here is in this section, we're getting the whole fuselage together with the interior all sorted and glued together. Then the top wing goes on and the bottom wing goes on, and that creates the biplane with the engines going, engine nacelles going, attaching to the underside of the lower wing, and then you've got a small rigging diagram down here. So simple stuff, small parts breakdown, and nothing to really worry about. You've got three options in this one. Of course, the decals we've seen, but putting that to one side, you've got a British one, which is the British Air Couriers Limited. You've got a French one from the Radio Navigants. I hope that's right. And then I think that's another English one here, Great Britain, which is Air Observers Navigation. So just three interesting markings. What I'm going to do is the Ollie's Airways one. I'll see if I can find a picture. They might be copyrighted, so I might not be able to put them in a video, but if I can, I'll insert one now as I'm talking about it. But it's for the Dragon Rapide that was used, just obviously Spanish Civil War related, like what I'm interested in. And it's the one that was sent from England with an English pilot from an English company, Ollie's Airlines, and it picked up Franco from Morocco and moved him over to Spain to kick off the Spanish Civil War, all in a Dragon Rapide. From an English pilot who was quite happy to do it, from what I can see. We're talking the usual stuff for a kit of this age, so it's raised panel lines. Fit issue isn't generally a problem. In fact, usually the level of detail and the fit, the way the kits go together is usually actually very impressive for a kit of this age. So all the Hella kits I've built so far are I haven't had a problem with the exception of the Potez 540, which is a little bit difficult, but we won't go into that. So, raised panel lines, good detail. Well, there is no interior detail here on the fuselage, on the sidewalls, and Here you've got the engine nacelles, which has got raised panels, and then looking at the actual aircraft, to be honest, there is quite a lot of raised panels, and nothing seemed to go down flush, so I wouldn't worry too much about getting all of these recessed and anything, because this is not much of an issue. Here's the floor of the fuselage interior, and I assume that sits in here on the curve quite nicely. And so that's that sprue. Then we've got another sprue here with a few other parts, which is the lower wing, where the engine nacelles then bolt in underneath with the undercarriage inside it as well. And then there's the struts, the undercarriage wheels, and a few parts here for the interior, with a nice instrument panel there. So that's that. And then we've got the last sprue, which is the other fuselage half. The two wings there, which I think are the top parts of the upper wing. It's getting a bit confusing, these biplanes. There's quite a few chairs here and seats for the interior, because this was a civilian aircraft, so it was for carting passengers around. And again, very nice. So you've got the rear horizontal stabilisers there, a couple of nice propellers, and again the same interior on this side. The engines might be a bit noticeable. I think they're pretty much what is on the front of the Tiger Moth, from what I can tell. So it's two of those under the wings. Now again, this being a kit of this age, it's been about a bit. So we've got a few parts here. So there's a couple chairs that have fallen off in the life of this kit. So we just keep all of that together. You've got one piece in side windows here, which slot into from the inside of the fuselage. And then you've got the main canopy there for the front of the aircraft. All of that looks very clear for the kit of its age, so no problem there. Now, in addition to all of that, unusually for something of this age, there is actually an etch set for it, which I've picked up. Now, I don't know if any of you have come across this as a etch manufacturer, but this is, I won't even begin to try and pronounce that, but this company basically gets Eduard to print a set of colour photo etch, quite modern etch as well. What's this? This is 2012, for a whole load of sets that are usually for quite older aircraft. I've got this for, this is obviously the Hella Dragon Rapide, which was re-released around this time, 2012. I've also got a set for the Academy P40M as well, and what it seems to be, they get quite a good deal, because these are a lot cheaper than what you'd expect. I mean, this was I think around the £5 mark, and usually nowadays Eduard stuff like this is getting up over the £10 mark, so that's quite good. Now here you've got a colour instrument panel with the two parts there, what you'd come to expect from modern Eduard sets, and we've got the seat belts here as well, or harnesses for the front, as well as framing for the outside of the windows. So from what I can tell, that would so yeah, that is meant to just go on there to give you the framing for the windows on the outside, which is a nice little touch. That should lift it a little bit, and it's just a few odd bits here on the interior which should go to giving this this older kit a nice little lift. So I certainly won't be recessing any of the raised panel lines or anything like that. I'm going to go with that. It's I think it sort of gives the kit the respect for its age. You know, I don't need to worry about recessed panel lines and all of that stuff. And this should give it a nice little upgrade. So that's something. I don't know if you guys have seen this company before. It was new to me. I've only seen them listed on the Hannant's website, so that's the place to look. If you type in that name, or type in, Dragon, you know how Hannant's works. If you type in a search and then filter it for this name, you'll see all of the sets that come up for, and it's quite interesting what aircraft they're designed for, and it's a good way of getting some Eduard etch set that wouldn't probably be made for a kit with this sort of appeal, which is going to be quite low in the grand scheme of things. So that is the Hella 172nd Dragon Rapide.